Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is another review for Unit 1 as we're getting ready for our first exam tomorrow. Say yay! Yay. These are my wonderful AP biologists. So, we have had formal reviews, and they're all up on YouTube for Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. And last Friday, we did a formal review for the potential essays. I'll reiterate what I said in class and what I said in the review. And if you look on the potential essays, for Unit 1, there's way more essays there than chapters we have covered, but that was my old arrangement of the units. Of course, I just leave those or potential questions. You would just do the ones that apply to what? Our unit. So of the ones that are on that list, which ones apply to that unit? Yeah, the first two. And then if you were here on Friday, we also discussed, you know, those are ones where I say I could really ask that, but we talked about on Friday. What else did we talk about on Friday?
Organization of life.
Right. No. What else did we, yes. What else did we talk about as far as essays go? Yes.
Cell membrane, or that could be like, you could use it as evidence in some of your essays.
Okay. I'm not being clear. Could there be essays on other things?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then, did I give you some potential essays I could ask? Yes. Okay. So, if you want to be, how could you find out about that review if you wanted to? What could you do?
YouTube.
Watch it on YouTube. It's all there. Okay? Because I don't want to revisit every potential possible essay. There could be essays I'm not even telling you about, right? Because I'm checking for your knowledge. I'm not going to give you every possible question I'm going to ask. But I did try to help you last Friday with some ideas of things I might ask, and I would find that of value. Those of you that were here, did you find it of value? Yeah, because we went over everything, okay, on Friday. And that was a really good review of Unit 1 on the whole. Okay, so questions about essays in general that you want to ask. Questions about essays like, I'm not going to redo what I've already done, but just procedure. Yes?
Generally, how much space are we going to be given for the longer essays?
This much? I mean, it varies. It varies per the question. Now, when you take your AP exam, your first two essays will be longer, and you'll be given several pages worth of room to write and compose, because you're going to write in complete sentences and write it all out. And then you might they'll always give you more space than what you need. I won't, because I don't want to haul those papers home. And so I'll have you do things in bullets and real quick. And so there'll be enough room to adequately answer the question. I'll tell you what I find. Two extremes, and I didn't mention this on Friday. Two extremes. I'll get some students who will blather on about all their knowledge because they don't know how to answer the question, so they'll just throw up all their knowledge on the paper and hope that some of it sticks. I will tell you, when I start reading essays like that, I have so much grading that I have to do teaching 6 classes. How do you think I feel when I read the blathering on people?
Rageful.
Yeah, rageful. That is a really good English word. So I will go, they couldn't find anything of substance, nor could they organize their thoughts. I'm done reading this essay. Okay? So you want to be careful to that extreme. You'll know when you're doing it. You've known historically when you've done that for other classes. Don't do that for me. Okay? I am all about, and the other extreme of that is being too what? Short. Too brief and not supporting your points. So you're going to learn how to be good at that. When I'm grading your essays, what you want to see on your paper, what would be the best thing of all, is a little line that goes, nah, which means I'm reading and you're supporting, and I can already tell I'm counting up the points that you are hitting in your head as I'm reading. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, they're going to hit it. And I don't even put check marks. I just stop making checks. I just like, full points. Okay, that's what you want to see on your essays. Or every time, you don't want to see a bunch of checks, because every time you say something of worth, I start checking. Depends on, as I get to know you, if I feel like I need to actually do that every single time, the checks. When things are missing, things aren't there, I'll start writing. Or I'll write, what? Or, huh? Or, no? Or I'll make connections between the two, like, you know, things that you didn't explain it enough. And you never want to see me starting to write question marks where I'm really going question mark, question mark, question mark, because then what would you say I'm grading with? What was that word over there? Yeah, rage. Yeah, you don't want that where I'm like wrecking my pins while I'm grading it. So there's a fine balance. So what you want to do is know it well enough that you can explain it. If I was asking you how to get directions to your house, are you going to explain to me how to get to Simi? Oh, some of you live in Simi Valley. Are you going to explain to me how to drive to San Francisco and then Salinas and then past Robles and then up the street to Oak Park? No. Okay? That's wasting a whole lot of gas, and all I needed to know 2 blocks up and 3 blocks to the right, a house number. Okay? So that's where I want you to be able to support. Make it brief, supportive points that show me that you know the information well. You're not blathering on. Yes?
But for those kinds of essays, do you want us to give examples?
Always, if I say something, you usually have to give an example. I'll say with examples, or give me an example of where you did this, or where you saw that. Okay, yes?
Will there be any essay question where we'll be required to either put complete sentences or bullet points, or is it always like our choice?
It's always my choice, and I will tell you exactly what I want. And by and large, it's bullet points, supported bullet points or numbered lists. And occasionally I have you write things out, you know. Yes?
For example, if there's like explain across a question and we want to draw a structure that, like, will you tell us when, or we can?
Let me tell you what the College Board would say. The College Board is you can use diagrams to support your words, but the diagram can't be in place of words. That's what the College Board would say. So your words should be enough, and you can use a diagram to augment what you're saying, but it can't be in place. Good questions. All of those are great questions. What else? Yes?
We need to know the lab for.
What would you think?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if there's some, and in fact, when you look on the calendar, you know, it tells you these chapters in this lab.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying.
Yeah. Okay? I'm throwing you under the bus. What else? Anything else you want to? Is somebody going to ask me if you need to know terms? Yeah, I would be familiar. That's your vocabulary. So you probably need to use those terms in your explanations, right? And you want to, if you use a word that's not part of your normal vernacular when you talk to your friends, I'd probably define it, you know, even within parentheses. Okay, it doesn't, and I'm not going to look to see, did you say exactly like the textbook said? I'm looking to see, can you define it in a way so I know what you're talking about? You'll see, when I ask my questions, I'm pretty specific, and if I'm not real specific, that means there's more than one way to answer that question, and that's very typical on your AP questions. There's more than one way to answer it. You just better do a good job when you do answer it, whatever you run with on that one. Okay, what else? Big general things. You will have one piece of scratch paper that you can use. You're not going to have the piece of scratch paper that you bring in. The reason is I've had cheating done before with that. So you'll take out one piece of paper, it'll be nice and neat, you'll pass it forward, I'll stamp them, I'm going to redistribute them any way I want to, and then that'll be your piece of scratch paper. So you can, what I would do, and they really encourage you, they give you a 10-minute reading planning period when you take your AP exam, where you kind of read through all the questions beginning to end. You could sketch a few things down, like, oh, I want to talk about this and that, you know, so you kind of do a splash down once you've done reading it, and let your brain kind of percolate with it and think of the best way to organize it, and then you put your final copy on my document, okay? And because it's your first one, I want to give you a lot of time. The part you need the most time really with is the essay, because multiple choice is 25 questions. You've got to be able to whip through 25 questions pretty quickly, just like on the you know, quizzes that you have. So just imagine, how long do we spend on the quizzes? Like, yeah, maybe like to take that quiz to actual taking it maybe 5-6 minutes, right? If that, you know, so you really, for 25 questions, and what's 5 times 5?
25.
Yeah, so you shouldn't need more than 30 minutes to answer those, and the rest of the time will be for essay. Okay? Yes?
Is there a prep session for tomorrow's test too, like the 10-minute thing you're talking about?
I'm sorry, I don't
Is
know.
there like a...
I encourage you to read. What I'll tell you is read through all of the essays. You have a piece of scratch paper, jot some things down for each one, you know, as you're thinking about it. make sure you think, oh, I gotta include this and this and this. Don't spend too much time on that because I'm only gonna read what you write on the final copy. Okay? What else? Yes?
So will we have like a specific amount of time to answer the multiple choice questions and then a specific amount of time to
Yep.
answer essays?
Yep. Yeah, it's very specific. And so when time's up, time's up. You can't like go, oh, I finished the essay, now I'm ready to move on to the multiple choice. It's all very, here's the essay, I collect the essay, now here's the multiple choice, and I collect the multiple choice. And why am I so hard-nosed about that? That's exactly how it is on the AP exam. The only thing that's different is they have you take the multiple choice first and then write the essay. I'm gonna tell you, it's kinda hard because you like spent under the stress of the multiple choice and then you're like, okay, now I gotta get my head together for essay. So I usually have you do the essay first because that's where a lot of your memorization takes place. So that way you kinda get that out and done and then you kinda chill through the multiple choice. So I do it in reverse. Yes?
Are we given like an equal time for multiple choice and essays, or are we
No.
given like,
Did you hear what I said? What did I say that you would need for the multiple choice?
30 minutes?
30 minutes, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
it's like
okay.
maybe 37 minutes for the essay or something like that, yeah. Yeah. What else? Anything else? Okay, well, if you think of something, write it down so you don't forget, okay? I want you to feel comfortable. First thing I'll have you do, so you know when you walk into class, you'll need a clicker. You won't need any Chromebook or anything like that, so don't bother getting it out unless you're here before class starts and you wanna look over some group share notes or something, okay? You need one piece of paper, ready to go. If you wanna facilitate the process to move along, the faster first period moves, third period has more time because of allowing time for the bulletin, but there's no bulletin tomorrow, right? So whatever the time it takes for me to do both sessions in first, that's what it'll be in third, and you'll probably have leftover time, cause I have to be fair to both classes, right? So the faster you're ready to go and we move through, the more time, cause I'll look at the clock and go, okay, I need this much for the multiple choice, I'll assume 30 minutes, plus I need 5 minutes to collect everything, that's 35. I'll count back and say I need 5 minutes transition between, I'll count back like 40 minutes from the end of class. That will determine how much essay time you get. So the faster we move along, the better, okay? So come prepared with one piece of notebook paper, standard, not child size, not, some of you have these little bitty, that's not notebook paper. Notebook paper is 8.5 by 11, okay? So get a standard piece, college ruled notebook paper. Have that ready at the start of class, at the front of your rows. I'm gonna say line leaders, do I have one piece of paper from each person? You're gonna tell me yes, and I'm gonna be like, stamp, or I'll give the stamp to you, my line leaders. Stamp, 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 and then we'll redistribute those along with a cover sheet and along with the final answer sheet that you're gonna do. Okay, it's gonna be the first unit test, so guess who's gonna move?
Great.
Slate, yep, Slate will be moving, and you'll you know, I'll say start, you'll do your essay, I'll have stop time, I'll warn you, like, you'll have the clock, and so you wanna break up your essays. That's the only, that part breaks my heart, if I have somebody who works like forever on one essay and then they don't do the other ones. Similar to, you'll know how many points all your essays are worth for the College Board. I write points in parentheses next to every single question, so you'll know how much it's gonna be out of 50. So if it's a 3-point question, don't spend 25 minutes on a 3, right? Okay, cause you wanna move on and work on the ones that are the most points, and you'll see every question how many points it's worth. Okay? And then we'll collect that, and then we'll do the multiple choice. You'll have an actual test in front of you, but you'll answer on clicker, and you'll have a backup sheet, you know, in case the thing fails, and also it's a lot easier for you to look at like all your questions at once and all your answers at once as you're going through. Okay, so that's how it'll go. And that's the procedure, you know, just so you're prepared, okay? So you need a pen for your essay because you write in pen for your essay. Same thing for the College Board. So make sure you have a good dark blue or dark black pen, not light blue, not aqua green or aqua maroon. Dark blue or black, yes?
Are we allowed to bring white out?
Yes, absolutely, you can bring white out. That might be a good idea. Painting. Okay, anything else on that? What's important for you to do tonight? Study, what else?
Sleep.
Sleep. Should you have a good dinner? Yes, fuel, food, not like, oh, chips and a Coke, okay? That is not a good meal. If you're an exerciser, should you still exercise? Yes, okay, you do that. All right. Now, If you have questions over 1, 2, or 3, jot those down. I did do formal reviews over that up before, so I thought I would use the time kind of hitting, touching base with chapter 4. Unless you'd like to make suggestions, I'm open, because I'm what would be most comfortable. Does anybody have one? You want open-ended questions? Go hit each of the chapters, or would you like me to spend, let's say, like 5 or 10 minutes just reviewing chapter 4 for you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Okay.
Cell structure.
Okay. So should you know and be able to differentiate through the cell theory? Yes. Make sure you know what the cell theory is. I would know that. Okay. The other thing I would feel very comfortable with is the whole surface area to volume. Why cells are small? Because you need a large surface area for exchange. Don't sit and learn everything about microscopes. I didn't ask you all these details. That was more so you could understand how we could view a cell. I do want you to understand the difference between what and what. What do you think? Prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. You want to make sure you understand the definition, the essence of it, that there are no membrane enclosed organelles in prokaryotic cells, where you do have those in eukaryotic cells. And oh, by the way, the cell membranes are different. Okay? You want to talk about things like we don't have a nucleus, we have a nucleoid region, those kind of things. Words that are key to a prokaryote are things like nucleoid. Do they have ribosomes? Yes. Do they do protein synthesis? Yes. Does it go cell membrane, cell wall, and then glycocalyx? Yes. Are there things for attachment? Yes. What are some attachment items? Fimbriae. What? Fimbriae is an external item. What's another external item? Flagella. What's another one? Sex pili. Good. What else? Cilia. Good. Okay. So those types of things, knowing internally, there are things like plasmids, little extra rings of DNA. We went through all of this, and I believe we have pictures like all over the place on Instagram where you can review some of the different items that you would find inside of a prokaryotic cell. I'd have a good idea of the difference between the two types of prokaryotic cells, bacteria and archaea. Okay? Archaea are found where? Extreme environments. Do they have a difference in their membranes and their walls? Yes. Okay? And that's what you want to walk away with on that one, because that probably allows them to live in those extreme environments. I would have a general understanding of the endosymbiotic hypothesis, how you went from prokaryotes to what? Eukaryotes. And that mitochondria and chloroplasts, who have their own DNA, and by the way, it's circular, and their own ribosomes, and they're self-replicating, they can make their own proteins. Almost sounds like a prokaryotic cell in and of itself. And could be one prokaryote going to live inside of another prokaryote. And then our whole endomembrane system, like the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi, that's just folded membranes, right? How do you make a highway, a ribbon through a cell? You could very easily do that by infolding of a membrane and just running it through the cell, right? Run it around your nucleus to protect your nucleus. And that's how you could get your ER. That's how you could get your Golgi. And that would be the endosymbiotic hypothesis. I would know differences between plant cells and animal cells. Okay, so we know so many things because you're super, super smart. Okay? We know there are certain structures that are the same, so I would just focus on the things that are what? Different and unique. So what's something an animal cell has that a plant cell doesn't? That an animal cell has that a plant cell doesn't? Would be a what? Lysosomes. Good. What is a lysosome? Stomach of the cell. Digests. It contains powerful hydrolytic enzymes within it. What's another thing an animal cell that a plant cell doesn't? No. Plant cells have membranous organelles.
Oh wait, never mind. Yeah.
Okay, that would be a prokaryotic cell. Something else, yes. They both have mitochondria. Yes. What's something that an animal cell has that a plant cell doesn't? Yes. What? They both have a nucleolus. Yes. Okay, they both have centrosomes. Scaring the crud out of me. Centrioles. The things that look like churros. Only animals eat churros. Plants won't, okay? Only animals eat churros. The things that look like churros. Centrioles are found only in animal cells. You don't find them in plant cells. Do you know the arrangement of microtubules in centrioles? 9 triplets, right? 9 triplets in the centrioles, okay? Cilia and flagella have 9 groups of 2 and 2 singles in the middle. And basal bodies, which anchor cilia and flagella, have 9 triplets, just like who? Centrioles. Okay, and we talked about that arrangement. All right, okay, that was hard. So, animal cells have centrioles, animal cells have lysosomes, and plants don't have those. So now let's look at plants. What are some things that plants have that animals don't have? Chloroplasts for doing what? Photosynthesis. What's something else? They both have vacuoles, but what you want to say is in a plant cell you have a large central vacuole. Yes, that will help with turgor pressure along with this cell wall. Yeah. So you have chloroplasts, you have a large central vacuole, and you have a cell wall. Okay, otherwise pretty much the same. Okay, so review each of the organelles that you have. Seriously. All right. Items to connect. The nucleus is very much connected with what organelle? Endoplasmic reticulum. Good. In fact, endoplasmic reticulum membranes are continuous, which means just continues on, with the nuclear membrane. It's just continuous, all one thing. Nuclear membrane. Now we're ER. What kind of ER is closest to the nucleus? Rough ER. And the rough is for the ribosomes. What happens on ribosomes? Protein synthesis. So the nucleus has the code, the information on how you want the sequence of your amino acids to be. We would refer that to what? What kind of sequence is that? That would be referred to as the what structure? What was that? Primary structure, exactly. The nucleus has the codes for the primary structure of all your proteins. Where are those proteins going to be built? Out on the ribosomes. Who takes the code from the DNA out to the ribosomes? mRNA. What does M stand for? Messenger. Yes, it takes the message. So the messenger gets on the ribosome, and then you have another kind of RNA, tRNA, which transfers the amino acids. I'm not having you learn all the RNAs verbatim. It just usually makes more sense if you explain it in that way. The ribosomes that are on the rough ER, proteins are getting built on them. Those proteins made on the ribosomes, on the rough ER, those proteins move into the ER. They move through the ER, which will then spit them out in a vesicle, which is then taken by who? The Golgi. Which side of the Golgi? The cis side of the Golgi, right? The Golgi is like the what? UPS man. What does the Golgi do? Packaging, processing, modifying those proteins, and then releases them out what side? Trans side. Usually if it's moving through the Golgi, oftentimes those are going to be used, but not always, as something that cell is making some protein that it's going to release into the environment it's sitting in, okay? And so it's going to release that protein out for the cell to use for its, or for the organism to use for its purposes. If it's going to be used within the cell, oftentimes it is that protein is made on free ribosomes, kind of floating around in the cytosol. Now there's rough ER and there's what? Smooth ER. Where the rough ER is all about proteins, the smooth ER is all about fats and carbohydrates, you know, and synthesizing and packaging those. Yes. Okay, so I saw hand, somewhere. It went down. Did you get your hair cut? It looks super cute. Did I already notice that before? Okay, super, very nice. All right, in a non-creepy teacher way. Let's get that on record. All right, so now we know the nucleus and the connection between the endomembrane system. Now, one vesicle you will make, and it remains within the cell itself, would be the lysosome, the stomach. You're not going to release those contents outside. And speaking of the lysosome, we talked about how it can be used to regulate cell numbers, because you can use it to commit cellular what? Suicide. Good. Apoptosis. Yeah, and that's a normal part of development, or it can break down an organelle that you don't want anymore. We also talked about peroxisomes. Oh, there's lysosomes and peroxisomes as well. This is a really good picture too that shows that connection between the nucleus and the Golgi, and that's in your textbook as well, lysosomes. Here is a peroxisome. Large central vacuole, really important to help keep a plant upright, keeping that turgor pressure. We talked about the energy organelles and how both plant and animal, right? Plant and animal eukaryotic cells, any eukaryotic cell actually, is going to have mighty mitochondria. What's coming out of the mitochondria that we need? ATP energy. Okay, so you take carbohydrate in, and you also need oxygen in, and then as a result of that, you're going to make ATP. A byproduct, we send oxygen in, but when we do cellular respiration, what comes out? Carbon dioxide, and that can be used by plants, right, in order to synthesize sugars, okay, through what process? Photosynthesis. So plants have both, but animal cells only have what? Mitochondria. And we talked about the cytoskeleton, and we talked about the different sizes of the cytoskeleton. We talked about actin, which is a microfilament, and we gave an example how you could have actin with myosin, which is a microtubule, and you could use that to slide past one another in your muscles. We talked about microtubules being like a cellular railway, whereas microfilaments are like a dense web right underneath the cell membrane, acting in support, much like our own skeleton is. We talked about vesicles walking along the microtubules, what pathway they're going to take within that cell. We compared, we looked at flagella with the 9+2 arrangement, compared that to centrioles, the 9 groups of 3, and looked at the connection between cilia, flagella, centrioles, and basal bodies. Yes?
So I remember that we went over actin and microtubules a lot, but we didn't really go over.
No, we didn't. I'm not worried about it. So it's not as small as actin and not as big as microtubules, but it is part of that dynamic support system within the cell. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The textbook kind of goes into detail on how the chloroplasts do photosynthesis.
Cytoplasmic streaming, or how they do photosynthesis.
Like with the thylakoids and all that. Like,
The thylakoid membranes and the stroma. I'm going to hit that again. This is your first unit, and so we're going to go into the structure of the chloroplast and the mitochondria when we discuss cellular respiration and photosynthesis.
Okay.
So, yes, you will know thylakoid membranes, grana, stroma. You'll know all of that. Just, I'm not holding you responsible for this pretty. I think you have enough on your plate. Okay. What else? Okay, so we compared those things, and we went in all of your classes, we went through and reviewed all of these already. We hit them all. But if you know 50% of my score is based on multiple choice questions, then what are you going to do? You're going to do multiple choice questions. And a real quick way, you want me to start that one?
I was just,
Oh, I turned on, countries, 41 number. Then I would use, you can go online and do the questions that are there, for sure, with your textbook. And keep in mind, every once in a while I get, guys listen to me, I want you to answer the question, and that's awesome, but listen to me too. I get requests every once in a while for the codes for the textbook online. Where can you find those codes to get on? It's in Google Classroom. I put them in Google Classroom for you. If you try to access them from the School Wires webpage, that anchor page isn't as interactive. That's more like, so you have an idea of what your anchor page is, and your parents have an idea because they can't get in your Gap account unless you give them all your codes, right? So that's to show you what I'm distributing to you. Use your real anchor page, not the one that's thrown up there on School Wires. You know, it kind of works. It just, not all the links work just because I'm linking a link through a link, and it becomes, I think, redundant or something. It has trouble with it. Okay, cup of English tea. Make a commitment. Okay, are we gonna get a handy?
Okay, so
Let's talk about why we wouldn't pick D, shall we? Processes, packages, and distributes. It's not the ER. Now, the ER is moving things, but the one that actually packages and does the modifications, that's going to be your what? Golgi. Okay? So inside the nucleus, let's talk about that for a minute because I went pretty fast. What's inside the nucleus? DNA. What else is in there? It's called chromatin or chromatin, but it consists of DNA, some RNA, and proteins. And when you get ready to do cellular division, those coil up and form chromosomes. And the nucleolus inside the nucleus, what's coming out of that? What's getting? Yeah, ribosomes. The rRNA that's needed for ribosomes. Good. Now, did you have any equations that you had to learn how to do in this unit? Chi-squared. Do you think I'm going to have you do a chi-squared problem? Probably. Probably. So would it be beneficial for you to review chi-squared problems? Yes. Degrees of freedom, right? How about like the scientific method, how we go about doing experiments? Yeah, we have driving questions. What else do we have? We write hypotheses, and we know research hypothesis and null. We know about doing controls and constants, right? Constant is what we keep the same in all of our experiment, and a control is where we're what? Changing. Yeah, we're using that as kind of our baseline to make our comparisons. Do we know the difference between independent and dependent variables?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to make sure you feel comfortable with that as well. Would you know how to, if I gave you some data, I could say, okay, give me claim, give me evidence, give me reason, right? Just like you did in your lab. So make sure you feel comfortable with that process. Do the practice chi-squared problems that are in your class. Plus, I believe I did a YouTube, did I not? On chi-square?
Oh, yes.
So you could review that. Would you think I expect you to be able to read a graph?
Probably.
Yeah, you had to make a graph, so I would expect you to be able to read a graph. So I could give you graphs and have you interpret information from those graphs. Do you think I expect you to be able to calculate an average? Yeah. Do you think you have to use the equation on that equation sheet? No, because you know how to calculate an average. What do? Add all of them up and divide by the number of variables, right? However many or numbers you're adding up, right? Okay. So those types of things, don't let those confuse you if you get one on the test. You haven't all of a sudden forgotten how to read a graph. Assume you know how to read a graph. Read, right? What are some things you would look at when you read a graph? I'd look at the axes, how they're labeled. What else would you look at? The increments? Good. What else would you look at? Type of graph it is. What else would you look at? Yes.
Trend in the line or something.
Trend, line, yes. What?
Title.
The title, actually, yes. Yeah. A legend is going to give you some information. And here's another thing. one of the biggest problems is students not answering the question that is asked. So, when you're on and taking your exam, and you read a question, make sure you answer what I ask of you. I don't want more than that, I don't want less than that. So maybe circle key words, go, okay, wait, what does she want to know? She wants to know this of this during this time period, or whatever. She wants to know the difference between this and this. She wants me to compare and contrast this and this. Circle those as you're reading those questions so you answer what is asked. Because a lot of times students will give me great information, but it doesn't have anything to do with the question that I asked. Okay? That practice chi-square. Do you remember how to do chi-square?
Yeah.
Do you need any help with that, or are you good? Okay, sure. Okay, so we love the bell. Okay, so on our chi-squared, remember, this is our equation, right? But we know it, when we looked at it, the big thing you have to remember when you read that equation is you're taking whatever the difference is from what you observed and what you expected, okay? You're squaring that and putting that over what's expected, right? And you're adding those all up. So this one, we could review here. If I'm dealing out 20 cards in this scenario, I would expect, my expected for each of these suits would have been 5 of this, 5 of this, 5 of this, and 5 of this. Do you agree with me on that? But instead, how many did I get? 6. So 6 minus 5 is 1. So I do 1 squared over what? 5, what I expected, right? Here I got 1, 2, 3. I expected 5. So what's the difference? What? 2 squared over 5. Okay, again 3, 2 squared over 5. And here I got 8. I have 8 there. I expected 5, so that's 3 squared, right, over 5. I take each one of those values, right? Each one of those values, okay? And I square the difference over what I expected, and I get these numbers. I just add all these numbers up. Difference is squared over what I expected, and I get some value. That is the chi-squared value. That answer, I need to see your math if you have a question like that. Okay, I need to see your steps. Once you have this value, you're not done yet, right? You got to look it up on the on the chi-squared chart. So at that point, you would, what is that number, 3.6? You would look at the equation sheet. Okay, and here's the equation sheet. Do you remember what the number was? What was it? 3.6? Okay, so how many cards did I have? 4. How many degrees of freedom am I going to have? 3, because it's always one less in all my choices. So I go over 3 degrees of freedom, and I go down. Where I have to be concerned at 5% is 7.82. Was our number less than that? Yeah, it was 3 something, right?
Yeah.
So, am I okay? Yeah. That would fall within chance. So it's not a significant number. I don't have to throw out my hypothesis on that. There, I did get the right number of cards. Okay, so there is a whole YouTube on that. You can review it. It's really important that you get sleep. Do you hear me? It's really important that you get sleep. So do you have any other homework that's due tomorrow? Okay. Hear me. This is the strategy you want to do. If there is something that is due tomorrow for a class and you haven't done it yet, or let's say the teacher just assigned it, or I don't know, you had the whole weekend, it should be done, right? So first of all, acknowledge that that was a poor choice on your part, okay? You should have done it over the weekend, because you shouldn't be studying for a test and doing homework that you could have done over a 3-day weekend. Be that as it may, get it done first. Get your homework done first. Cross it off your list. so that you know you have the rest of your evening time to review. You're not going to review till 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm going to tell you, your brain does not work. Especially with this is a college level class for you. You haven't had to take a class like this unless some of you have gone away and taken a college course. You haven't had to take an exam like this before. Okay? So your brain works best when it has had sleep and your body is in what? That involves eating, drinking water, sleeping. Okay? Tonight is not the night to break up with your boyfriend and girlfriend. Tonight is not the night to be an emotional terrorist to your friends or to your family. Don't pick any fights tonight, okay? Get your have-tos done, then start reviewing systematically. Weakest chapters first, okay? Take multiple choice tests. I believe in you, and I love you very much. Okay, make good choices.